Namaste. My name is Preity Upala, and I am a global thought leader and a multimedia personality. Welcome to my podcast, The Preity Experience. Join me as I explore some of the most fascinating and crucial issues that affect our world today. I take a unique global perspective on these issues, and the very foundation of my insights is humanity and spirituality. I'm Preity Upala, and welcome to the Preity Experience.
In a show of solidarity, CEOs of some 40 top American companies have come together to create a global task force to mobilize resources to help India fight the battle against COVID-19. Deloitte CEO Puneet Ranjan said a collective initiative of the US-India Business Council of the US Chambers of Commerce and the US-India Strategic and Partnership Forum and Business Roundtable, the task force during its meeting, has committed to get 20,000 oxygen concentrators to India in the next few weeks. The new US public-private partnership to provide India critical medical supplies, vaccines, oxygen, and other life-saving assistance amid an unprecedented surge in coronavirus cases is called the Global Task Force on Pandemic Response, Mobilizing for India. We'll talk about this and much more. Initially, there was a shocker that came from the Biden administration, but all of that seems to be the story of the past. Now everybody is pooling in resources together and their minds together to help India out. And why not? India is an important cog in this wheel we call the world economy. To talk more about this, joining me on the platform is Ambassador Dr. Deepak Vohra, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, former diplomat. We're also joined by Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian. Preity Upala, editor of The Observer. She joins us all the way from California. And last but by no means the least, Dr. Dheeraj Kaul, physician, nephrologist, and pain management specialist. He's joining us from New York. He's also an expert in data mining and a clinical researcher. Dr. Kaul, I'll start with you. Obviously, the kind of support which has poured in from the United States might be a tad bit late, might be, a tad bit embroiled in controversy as well. But like they say in Hindi, der aaye durust aaye, better late, and that is hence the case. And, we are happy to note that the Indian community and the diaspora has also been very conducive in making sure that their votes, Mr. Biden, count for something.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. I think this is very, very critical that first of all, we should understand there is something good we are learning from the virus, that virus doesn't discriminate on borders, race, religion, ethnicity. Together, we have to fight the virus. Virus doesn't care what political system you live in, democracy, dictatorship, communism. This is what it's teaching us. Together, when everybody is pooling resources, we can fight. And it's very crucial to understand when the herd immunity achieves, which is 70% of people either going through the vaccination or infection, later is the worst case scenario because people who have weak immune system and have comorbid conditions, their outcomes are very poor, as we know. So we rather have 70% of the globe go through the vaccination instead of infection, so that morbidities and mortality is much, much lower. And when I say 70%, it's not a country-specific number. It's a global. In the entire globe, we have a population of 7.8 billion people. India is 1.38. So there is no way in the world can leave India in this critical crisis situation. And India has always played in the forefront in 2020, as we saw, with hydroxychloroquine and other resources pooled and exported to whatever level it could. And rightly so, now we are seeing entire developed countries like UK, EU, France, even China, even Pakistan, I heard today, and US, last but not the least, which is sending very much critically needed support to help the crisis in India. I've been talking to many, many doctors who are running ICUs, the days they are seeing, the distress they are giving. Let me just tell you, as a physician treating a patient as I've done in ICU, without oxygen is like flying a plane, and in the mid-air, you come to know the gas has run out. Just imagine what you will go through. So it's not only a crisis on the healthcare system, it's a mental trauma for physicians who are working 24/7 in India with limited resources. So this help is a lifesaver. Absolutely. It's a fresh breath of air. And All Indians are really grateful for all the help we are getting from Biden administration, UK, EU, and any other country which is coming forefront, because India has always been in forefront to help any country it can, including our neighbors with whom we have some controversial relations. So it's a very, very positive news.
Absolutely. And Ambassador Vora, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Vivo have all extended support to the, this recent surge in COVID-19 cases across the country and across the world as well. Companies who in fact even don't do business with India are planning to help India out. I'd like to think that this is more than, an initiative for corporate social responsibility.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malhotra. Always delighted to be with you, with your other colleagues, to learn from them. I heard what Dr. Kaul had to say. Yes, indeed, Indian physicians like him are the best in the world, which is why we're able to cope with this crisis, despite these shortcomings. So let me just put across something in a historical perspective. This is not the first time that American industry has stepped up to the plate. I served in Washington 82 to 85. You remember the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984. Yes. It was an American company that was involved, Union Carbide. Nevertheless, many American corporates stood up and said, guys, we have to own responsibility for this. We have to do what we can to help India. 1998, the Americans had imposed sanctions on us, the American government, after the nuclear test. Again, American corporates said, no, India is our buddy, and their nuclear weapons are never going to be given to others or used in any way against the United States, because India is not one of the countries that goes around yelling deaths to the United States. So 1999, during Kargil, the Americans again stood by us. And you remember what Clinton told Nawaz Sharif, that Nawaz, if you don't back down, well, then you can go into exile, or some very, very tough words. I'm told he rapped the table with his knuckles. His knuckles were white, the American president, on the 4th of July, their national day. Now, they've stood by us. Sir, 2016, 2019, Pathankot, Uri, Pulwama, the Americans have stood by us. So may I just say that our relations with the US have always been good. Their relations with us sometimes have been a bit iffy. Like us, Americans, Dr. Kaul, are amazingly generous. And like us, they do the right thing after they have done everything else. When they're finished doing everything else, then they do the right thing. What we are seeing today, and thank you very much, Preity, and thank you, Dr. Kaul, is an all-of-country, all-of-people approach to get the US to see reason and put people over profit. The security advisors have spoken, which suggests that it's more than a health crisis. The heads of government have spoken. Sir, for us, all lives matter. We did not boast about our support to America in 2020. We did it when we were asked. The American way of life needs a strong partner with shared values and ideals. India is the strongest possible partner today for the United States. I rest my case.
Absolutely. Joyita,
wow.
This support that has come forth from, corporate America is, heartwarming. But at the same time, more needs to be done in terms of making sure that all those people who haven't helped us in these crises are remembered.
Well, let's not be quote-unquote vengeful about it.
Why not? Why not? Well, you have Pat Cummins and Brett Lee who have contributed towards the PM Cares Fund, and you're yet to see an Indian cricketer contribute towards that particular fund. I am appalled.
Yeah, in fact, all of us have contributed to some fund or the other, including the PM Cares. You see, no, I mean, more than that, I think, I do tend to agree. I think about the Americans, after doing everything wrong, finally they find the right thing to do. And I think that is what is happening in the case. And frankly, but it's good they have woken up to this crisis, primarily because you see, we are not begging for help. What we need is supplementing our efforts. All right, we are already doing it, and that is what we need. And yes, we also...
That's the politically correct way of putting it, supplementing our effort, correct.
Okay, now when we are looking at it, if you look at what happened to the US or the UK, the US or Italy for that matter, now this kind of a pandemic does not happen every year or even every decade. This is something like a once in a century, incident, or perhaps even much more than that. So when something like this happens, no medical system in the world, even the most developed, like in the United States, is geared up to cope with such the kind of volumes that they have to handle. And you see, we are talking about, I think US has had something around 350 million people. Here we are talking about 1.3 billion people. Okay, so the kind of volume that we have, and when you look at it in terms of the millions, the cases in terms of per million and all, India is it's a much lower scale. But in absolute numbers, our numbers are very big. And so that is something, that is the reason why there is such a huge pressure on the healthcare system. We are saying that our healthcare system is not the best in the world. It has way to go. 70 years of not paying any attention to health has brought us to this level. The government is waking up and doing something. And you see, in a globalized world, when everybody is connected, and think of the kind of connections we have with the US in terms of travel, in terms of business, education, everywhere we are so closely connected. So you see, if this virus affects us, it affects a whole lot of other countries also. So it is not just in the interest of India that this is brought under control, but it's in the interest of the world. You see, this is what China did. China did not tell anyone that what was happening over there. But here it is all open and out in the public.
But they're still not telling anyone, Joyita, what's happening there. They still only have about 1 lakh cases since the pandemic began. But Preity, there was obviously a lot of heartbreak in India when initially, the United States said that American lives are more important than Indian lives. Should that be water under the bridge, or should we remember that as some sort, of a wake-up call, or some sort of, an idea to be circumspect when dealing with the United States in the future?
Namaste, and thank you, Mr. Malhotra, for having me on your wonderful show. So nice to be here. In hindsight now, it's all said and done. I think it's we need to be happy with the fact that this administration has gone out of their way to help their ally and strategic partner in India. I think what's heartwarming is the Indian American diaspora here, who have come together, really mobilized, and absolutely held their council men and the administration and the Secretary of State accountable. And everyone has listened to the community. That's why they're going out of their way to take this unprecedented, one-of-a-kind global pandemic task force specific to a country. That's never happened, I think, probably in the history of the US in this way. So I think it's important to be grateful at this time. Amazing to see Silicon Valley rallying. Obviously, the backbone of America is the Indian American diaspora who work in the Bay Area. Technology is the greatest USP of America, and it's Indian Americans that make America great, quite frankly. So it's amazing to see people like Sundar Pichai, Nadella, Vinod Khosla, and of course Amazon come together. 40 of the top CEOs have come together to create this task force, and it's genuine, it's sincere, and their plans to have at least 25,000 oxygen cylinders delivered is huge. I think this is a big win for the diaspora. They should be very proud of themselves. And also, just to point out, I was very heartened that the CEO of Deloitte, Mr. Ranjan, made a point that it's under control. It's fine. Both the governments are taking care of it. They're monitoring the situation. Nothing to panic. No need to panic. We will navigate our way. It's important that he's not sensationalizing this and almost sexualizing this, like I've seen in some of the Western media, which I think is horrific.
Okay, all right. Preity, Joyita wants to come in. Joyita, go ahead. We have
Yeah. In fact, I would like to take on from where Ms. Upala was speaking. The kind of coverage of the Western media, it is shameful to say the least.
Even
it's
Australia,
unbelievable.
Even Australia, for that matter. Look at
that apocalypse. For God's sake, you have no sensitivity. You have no idea about what is going on in the country. It is like funeral pyres are burning in every street corner. For God's sake, come to where I live. It's normal everywhere, although there are over 70 cases in my society. You see? And 99% of them are at home. It's just like a mild fever. We are
Absolutely.
spreading so much.
And I must make this point and get a quick reaction from Ambassador Vora before I wrap up. In the past, Ambassador Vora, countries have been raided and attacked and totally ramshackled for being, for being under the suspicion of having biological weapon. Here you have a country, which every day goes on to infect the world and kill it, but the Western media continues to target India.
What do you expect them to do? There is this ghoulish delight, vulturous rapture that they have in attacking India. Last year it was our migrants moving. Now it is dead bodies being burnt in homes, or it's hospitals, or it's non-availability of oxygen. Some memories die hard. The 15% of the world's population that ruled the other 85% for 200 years. There is an atavistic phenomenon here. They do not forget. Let me come back very quickly, sir. Give me 30 seconds to talk once more about America, country that I love. Both our children live there. We have no family in India. Everyone we own, in a way, our familial relations lives in the US. There is unbelievable goodwill for America in India. Dr. Kaul, Ms. Upala, the American dream is every Indian's aspiration, without, of course, sacrificing our cultural mourning. I do not know of too many Indian families, we have some 250 million, that do not have a relative or a friend or a friend of a friend or a village mate among the 4 million Indian diaspora in America. Leadership is based on capability and moral authority. America has the capability and is now making a sincere effort to regain its moral authority. Welcome back, America. We love you. And
welcome back on the good books. Dr. Kaul, 10 seconds for you. Quickly
Okay.
to wrap up.
And just a very scientific point, since I do research as well, it's very crucial that we stop the multiplication of the virus, to stop the rare mutants to develop, because there is such a thing called vaccine escape, which is already seen 30% in AstraZeneca vaccine, which is a double mutant, which is causing 50% infectivity in young people, hospitalizing them. The disease in the lungs, which was 10 to 12 days later, is showing in 3 days. It's very new. And a triple mutant, which is like a bomb, which is going to blow in Bengal, West Bengal, that's a triple mutant. So the more the virus multiplies in people, the rarer the mutants will start, and that will come back to US, and these vaccines will fail. So it's in our interest to vaccinate across the globe, make it free of cost, give it to as many people as possible, and follow social distancing and protect yourself.
That's another debate that we will perhaps get into at a later time. But nevertheless, Ambassador Vora, Joyita Basu, Preity Upala, and Dr. Kaul, appreciate you taking out the time.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.